Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing. Now, with the Morning Magazine, here's Carl Hilke.
Thank you, Jerry, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's show on AM 1320 and also on the web at WFHR.com. And we welcome our friends from River Cities Media, who are digitally recording this for re-air in high definition. If you're on the Solaris cable system, or if you go to rivercitiesmedia.org. And so we thank them for doing that. Charter, we're still waiting. Maybe after the merger, you can go high def on River Cities Media. Come on, being friendly. It's time for the reason why they're here is it's time for our Wood County update with County Board Chairman Lance Pliml. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning, Carl. Thank you for having me this morning.
Okay, we're very glad to have you here on another wet day. Well, let's talk. Since parks are a big part of Wood County, and in fact, one of the attractive aspects of Wood County are its campgrounds and parks, and we just got done with the first big holiday of the quote-unquote summer season, Memorial Day. How were things across Wood County? Did occupancy rates-wise and the like? What have you heard?
It was extremely busy going in. The weather did not cooperate through the weekend, so we didn't have a lot of people stay the entire weekend, especially when we looked at those forecasts. We do have a park system that really is a jewel among those statewide, and the opportunities are almost limitless in what you might want to do. Going into the weekend, basically a sold-out situation, standing room only, but as you get into a weather situation where Friday was pretty nice, Saturday was gorgeous, and then rain all day Sunday, and then into early Monday, a lot of those people packed up and got out of town. I did have the opportunity to drive by South Park the other day, and I noticed the campground was fairly empty. And, that's one of those opportunities that some of the people who live locally might want to take advantage of, those midweek opportunities to get out to the lake. I'm often amazed at how many people go out there, use it almost as a summer home, camp at the lake, and go to work in town. So this time of year yet, there's ample opportunity during the week to get out there and maybe take advantage of some of those parks that we have. There's, we're in the neighborhood of 300 campsites countywide, a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think a lot of people forget that. They think, weekend's the only time to go camping. You might want to take advantage of midweek when there's fewer people and you got the feeling of you got a private park.
Well, and your choice of campsites sometimes.
Yeah, you're right.
Those best ones tend to go pretty quick, and people have identified those by number. You can make those reservations online or make the phone calls. However, on those weekdays, when I drove out the other day, I will often find a cluster of locals that are out there just as a group. They have their campers out there, their tents, and they just kind of make a mini vacation of it.
Sure.
And you can still get up and go to work in the morning. In fact, I know some of them who camp all night, head into their own home, shower, clean up, and then go to work and back to the campground. But that availability does exist during the week.
But it's a wonderful treasure we have here in Wood County, the park system that we have, and it's been maintained. In fact, just talked to some folks from the leadership group of the chamber yesterday, on yesterday's show, and we were talking about one of their two projects. One is to complete that Wazecha trail into the city, using the snowmobile trail. And the other thing is the Red Sands Beach. And they're going to be presenting a proposal. They've gotten Mid-State Technical College students, their civil engineering students, help them come up with some alternatives, and they've developed a plan for kind of leveling that area off a little bit, making it more accessible for those with physical limitations, which would be really nice given the international competition that will be coming here next summer in terms of water skiing. That will be presented to Wood County Board. Maybe you could tell us, and for members of the class and people who have been keeping up with this project, you got a group of citizens who say, we'd like to do this, and we don't expect the county to do everything, but we'd like to do this. What's the process?
Well, we have a lot of citizen groups that have partnered with us to provide many of the upgrades that we've had at those parks. Probably number one and foremost is the aqua skiers.
Yeah.
And the efforts they have put forth at Red Sand Beach to facilitate the development there and make that a better site for these water ski competitions. Not only the state tournament, which is the biggest tournament in the world, but the world tournament now coming to Wisconsin Rapids next year. We have the sportsmen's clubs that maintain rifle ranges and help us out in the county forest. We have groups like the leadership group that come up with proposals to enhance, biking, hiking, recreational trails and make it more accessible to those, like you said, with some physical challenges. So all of those partners greatly enhance what we have. They help us develop that. From a parks department, we can often match dollar for dollar with some of the grants available.
That's what they were talking about, is going after some grants and then also going after some private dollars or volunteer work and the like to try and help facilitate this. But it has to go through the county board, I understand, and everything.
Well, pretty much, and I'm generally speaking, any project that occurs in the parks or on county property will go before the board for final stamp of approval. But generally speaking, there's no pushback to those types of projects. Anytime that you can take federal dollars, state dollars, and certainly either work in kind or dollars from those charitable organizations out there, it really helps us move those projects along. And when we go through the grant application process, when they see that there's that involvement at the community level, that also scores you extra points in that process.
And from a county government perspective, you love it when the citizens of the county say, hey, we want to get involved and help.
Well, when they see the value. And I'm going to use South Park right now, Red Sand Beach in that area as an example. Every one of the shelters in our park, especially this time of year with graduations coming up, are generally booked 100% of the time on those weekend days. And we have a significant number of shelters at that park in particular, NEPCO out at Dexter, up at North Park, but those are all full. So we talked about the camping opportunities, but there's also all the shelter opportunities. There's those graduation parties, weddings, retirement parties, anniversaries. We see all of those out there. The hiking, trails, the Frisbee golf. It's amazing when I go into that park, the number of people that use it for various reasons all year long. And, it is there for the public. We pay for those parks, or much of those parks, with tax dollars. And I always say it's one of the very few programs that anybody within a county has the ability to access without any other special needs. It's available to all taxpayers, regardless of income levels or anything else. And in effect, you've helped subsidize those camping fees and other user fees. Certainly go a long way in maintaining those different facilities. But get out there and use them, see what they're doing, and I certainly want to congratulate groups like the leadership group that takes on those initiatives, the aqua skiers who have constantly improved that park out there for what is really probably the single biggest event in Wisconsin Rapids on an annual basis. And we see those improvements. I'm just using that park as an example because I happen to. That almost is in my backyard, but that occurs at all of our parks.
Yeah, and like I wholeheartedly agree with your statement. Get out there and enjoy the parks, people, because you help pay for them. And take your family out there. Take a walk. The walking trail is beautiful. If you want a reason to exercise, go take your nightly walk or afternoon walk around Lake Wazeecha. You'll get into a steady exercise program real quick.
Yeah, it's quite a hike all the way around. In fact, I knew a couple of people the other day that parked a car at White Sand Beach and made it to Red Sand Beach when the skies opened up. And I said, that's a long way back to your car. So I'm not exactly sure what it is all the way around that lake, but probably 3-4 miles. I probably should measure it sometimes. I've walked it and biked it several times.
It's a beautiful facility. But let's talk about our next topic. And if you're just joining us on the Morning Magazine, welcome. We're visiting with Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml and his monthly report on today's show. And we also have our folks from River Cities Media here digitally recording it in high definition for those of you who get it online or our Solaris customers. Let's talk about bonding. The letter B today.
Let's talk about parks.
Okay, parks is more fun. Let's talk about bonding. A couple of different bonding areas or projects for Wood County. Where did you want to begin?
Well, we started with the first step with a couple of efforts on some rather large, long-term initiatives that we have looked at in the county. The first of which and the largest is the road situation.
Right.
And we had a deteriorating road condition over many, many years. Our highway department's done an excellent job of keeping it held together with tape and smoke and mirrors and everything else. But at the end of the day, infrastructure is extremely important. Not only to you traveling to and from work, but to those businesses that look to locate here or are here already. And as we use what are called PACER ratings, and it's the way roads are rated in their conditions. Is the substructure falling apart? Does it only need some crack sealing? There's ratings that fall within that scale. And we had a deteriorating situation, and I think that's the old Pennzoil commercial that says "Pay me now or pay me later." But like any other project, we look at what those costs might be if we delay that maintenance or if we do it now. And the most cost-effective way to handle that particular problem was to get after it now, to fix the problem before it totally deteriorates. And that was by bonding about $5 million last year and a little less than $5 million this year to put those roads into much better shape. Now, there are some possibilities coming down from the state, which would also take the entire county. It would take a countywide referendum to pass that initiative, but there's some talk in Madison whereby they would enact legislation where counties would have the ability to assess a 0.5% sales tax to be used only for road improvements.
This would be in addition to the existing sales tax?
To the addition, yeah. So in Wood County, for instance, you would have a total 6% sales tax. Nobody likes taxes. Nobody likes new taxes, less probably than I do. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, sales tax is a much more progressive way than the regressive, property tax. Once you've bought something, once you live in a house, and those taxes continue to escalate, it forces people out of those properties. Sales tax is paid by people obviously consuming, and a good part of it, as we talked about those visitors coming into our community, are paid by people who are here from out of the area. So they help in facilitating those dollars coming into those funds and therefore being expended on those road projects. That would take a countywide referendum. It would have to be passed, and that money would go into a separate segregated account strictly for road improvements. If that happened, we would not have to use the bonding mechanism to do that. It wouldn't be in addition to, it would be instead of. And, sales tax are always a much more progressive way to handle that. Again, the taxpayers will have that input into the process. We just looked at the long-term probability out there and said, we're going to spend a lot more dollars if we don't get after these projects now. Now, when you equate that to the tax levy at the end of the day, it's about $11 on a $100,000 piece of property, which isn't, nobody likes that. But when you think about what the cost of that is in comparison to maybe an alignment on your car because you hit another giant pothole, it tends to be a drop in the bucket. So, I tend to use that. It's that pay me now or pay me later mentality. That right now is going forward at this point in time, and that bonding issue will probably continue. We will probably see those improvements, and at some point we may have the ability to switch that over to a sales.
What's your feeling on this proposal out of the state? What's the County Boards Association's view on this?
It's real interesting dynamic. The northern part of the state, which knows that none of the dollars that get collected through taxes tend to end up there. They all end up in the southeast corner of the state, the Zoo Exchange, the Hone Bridge, those types of projects are greatly in favor of it. The southeast corner of the state loves it because doesn't love the sales tax, likes the fact that most of the dollars stay down there already, probably doesn't affect them. So it's a little bit of a split in where the support comes from, but surprisingly, when this was first introduced, there were about 14 legislators that signed onto it immediately. This is going before the Joint Finance Committee probably today or tomorrow. And I think in most people's minds down there in the conversations I had, this is a toss-up. They're not sure where it's going to go.
Well, the legislature is in a conundrum. They say, well, we don't want to increase taxes, but yet we got a whole lot of road work across the state of Wisconsin to do, and and they're in the same boat. They're going. The cost is only going to increase. And DOT came up with a plan, and they got shot out of water before the governor's budget was even introduced. So they're kind of reaching for some ideas.
Absolutely. Nobody likes to spend more money on anything, other than their own personal enjoyment. You can include me in those people. But at the end of the day, you don't want another I-35 bridge collapse like you had up, in Minnesota. We need to make sure that our infrastructure is sound. I thought this was a pretty innovative way for the state to kind of kick this can down the road to the counties and wash their hands of it and not have to make those tough decisions. Said, well, county people, if you decide in your county your roads are deteriorating and you want to enact a 0.5% sales tax, then you can do it. And they kind of walk away from the problem.
Sure, right.
So I'm not sure why anybody down there would object. I can see where we might object, saying, we send a lot of money down to you in Madison or to Washington. We'd like to see some of those funds come back. But I thought from a state legislative situation, this would be a real easy way to handle it. I did my part. Now you can vote on it, and you can do it.
Kick the can down the road, it's called.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure how that'll play out. That's one there where they thought there'd be about a 50-50 split, and we'll see where that one ends up.
And imagine it's bipartisan either way.
It was on that, and you have at the state level, you had some real interesting thought there. You had the governor who doesn't want or who wants to increase bonding for those roads.
Right.
You have the legislature who's saying, we kind of reached the limit on what we can do from a bonding perspective. We got to come up with better and more innovative ways to do this. And nobody seems to be doing anything. This would be one way, like I said, they can push it off onto somebody else. Now, when I talk about bonding, for instance, at the state level, you're chewing up about 25% of the total dollars allocated for that just to service the debt on these as we go forward. From a county's perspective, when we talk about bonding for this, our county is virtually debt-free. Even with last year's bonding, we probably only have $5 million of debt, and we have a $250 million borrowing capacity. We are not talking about, apples and apples here. This is an apples and oranges approach, a way to kind of level that tax levy. And I've always been somebody who says, I don't want to collect those dollars till we absolutely need them. But we are at the point where we really need them, and we can smooth any increases in tax levy. Our tax levy in Wood County is still significantly below where it was 20 years ago. And my goal is not to bring it up to where it was. It's just to level that so people aren't hit with any surprises on a year-to-year basis.
The roads that are being fixed, I take it they're throughout the county, or are there certain areas of the county that are in
more need of repair than the
more
others.
need of repair than the other. That's a good way of putting it.
That's exactly right. And they are located throughout the county. And I really wish I would have brought a map with me. And I've said that before. So next time I'm going to bring a map.
Okay, yeah, because we got the TV here, we can use that as an for at least for our TV audience.
They are located around the county, and like I said, we go through the process, and they are rated on this PACER rating scale.
Right.
And we address those that need to be addressed first and foremost. And there's kind of primary county arterial roads, and then there's more secondary ones.
Right.
And, we base that on traffic use, on where it's really needed, on where we're going to get the most bang for our buck again. But we partner with that with BIA money from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, some of the dollars that they have made available. Some of those you've seen some of those improvements probably out near the casino in Nakusa. A number of those have been in the Marshfield area. Many of those are really located right in the center of the county right now. But again, we look at the ratings, we look at what needs to be fixed the most, and we get after those first.
Okay. The other bonding involves UW Marshfield, I understand.
This is another one, kind of a unique situation. The 4-year campuses in the state of Wisconsin, basically owned by the state of Wisconsin. The 2-year campuses that you see out there are owned in partnership typically between cities and counties. So we own UW Marshfield or UW Wood County. If you took the building and you could pick it up and shake it, everything that falls out of it is typically owned by the state of Wisconsin. The dollars for that personal property is allocated by them for that equipment. We obviously made a huge commitment 50, 60 years ago to build that facility. And since then, we contribute, both the County of Wood and the City of Marshfield contribute annually to maintenance, to some update, to some small capital improvement projects over the year. But generally speaking, I can say that in the time that has been there, we have not spent a lot of dollars on improvement to that campus. I happened to tour with the rest of the county board their science facilities the other day, and I can honestly say this, that and I have been out of high school. I was at my 40-year class reunion last summer. Okay. So, the science facilities at UW Marshfield are not as good as the ones that I had in high school 40 years ago. So that gives you some idea of how dated those are. And in today's world where we're looking at educating people in those science, technology, math fields, we need better facilities. They don't have the ability to vent. They don't have, from a toxic fume standpoint, the safety mechanisms are not in place, and there's no way to retrofit those. So this is a really outstanding program. private funds are going to account for about 2/3 to 3/4 of the dollars coming in to do that expansion and that update. The city of Marshfield and the county of Wood will also contribute in the neighborhood of about $1 million each. It's $1.2 million, with $6 million being raised out of the private sector. So this is another win-win. Anytime you can get enough people who see the importance of a project to that level that they're willing to contribute those kind of dollars, we as the other partners and the owners of that facility, Marshfield and Wood County, really see the need to upgrade those. That was a unanimous vote, I believe, on the county board floor to support that.
It's not surprising, given the fact that we're seeing a stress more toward your 2-year campuses like UW-Marsh. It's a reduced cost for families if the student can get their first 2 years of their 4-year degree there, or get a 2-year associate degree. The same reason why you're seeing a greater need for the Mid-State Technical College campus here in Wisconsin Rapids. Those facilities are going to be playing a bigger role in the future than even the 4-year campuses.
Well, the educational opportunities are fantastic, and you have the ability, and tuition's a little lower, but you also have the ability to stay at home, which saves a lot of dollars. And frankly, there are young adults at different stages in their life. Some are extremely capable of handling moving away from home and being there at 17, 18, or 19 years of age. Some are much more comfortable staying closer to home, or they help in a family business or on a family farm, and it's needed to stay close to home. I would find that the people that come out of those campuses are extremely well prepared when they get to the 4-year campuses, and oftentimes there are articulation agreements in place where some of those 4-year degrees can be finished right on those campuses, whether it be the 2-year UW campuses or right here at Mid-State.
Yeah, Mid-State has agreements.
Several programs through Lakeland College.
Right. So, I mean, and as for families that are trying to stretch their education dollar, that's a huge savings. That's a big opportunity for them.
You know, and education takes a huge bite out of any family's pocket. You know, when you're looking at tuitions, tuition, room, and board, you know, even at the public institutions can easily approach $15,000 a year. And then you look at some of the private institutions at $30,000 and $40,000 a year. That's a significant financial drain on any family.
Okay, and I guess going forward, that's a huge role in our business development in Wood County. I mean, when you have that educational infrastructure for training the people for the jobs of the future.
The single biggest detriment to expansion of business is the lack of an educated workforce. Number one, and Mid-State, for instance, has been extremely reactive to the needs of the business community in developing programs and getting those started and getting those educated people out there. UW, for instance, up in Marshfield, we have one of the largest medical communities up there. You may have read the paper recently or watched the news, and you see this shortage of people we have in the medical field, especially in the psychiatric arena.
Oh, yes.
You know, we have found that if we can train those people locally, if we can educate them locally, if we can get buy-in to our communities, that they're more likely to stay here than go to other places. And that's where you as individuals out there on the street, when we are a friendly community to live in or a safe community to live in, we can hopefully attract those people, we can retain those people, and we can keep them here.
The bottom line, whether it's the parks that we enjoy, whether it's the infrastructure, the highway infrastructure that we drive our to and from work, or whether it's the educational infrastructure that we use to educate our children, and they all play a very important part in the overall quality of life in Wood County.
It's quality of life issues. And the number one issue when we talk to people is public safety. And I think all you have to do is look around and see some of the statistics. For instance, Milwaukee, Chicago, you know, and some of the violence that goes on. And there's people that want to get out of those areas or not have to locate to those areas, but jobs attract them. So with public safety in mind, if you have the ability to stay up here, and we know that's number one in their minds. And by the way, our Sheriff's Department just instituted another program.
Yeah, he talked about it 2 months ago on this program. Basically, it's called Be Nice, as the paper said. But 2 months ago, he talked about it on the Morning Magazine, saying it's just about being professional and being courteous to our consumer, the people we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
They're part of a system, and we've worked very hard to make them part of that overall feeling that you get when you are here. But we talked about body cams one day, you know, and cameras certainly are important. They're in the car, but cameras and more digital capacity and all those things bring in other issues other than just having a camera on somebody. But our police forces, for instance, are extremely well educated, which is not a situation we see in some of the large cities where they've had some of the problems that they have had.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we could continue
Yeah, I'm
talking
looking at
for a
the
while.
clock while I'm talking, trying to shorten the
And
sentences.
okay, but hey, it was a very interesting discussion, and we'll keep updated. We'll keep the folks updated on these various projects going forward. In the meantime, have a good weekend. Hopefully, it's a dry one.
Listen to your weather forecast. It doesn't sound so great. But thanks for having me, Carl.
Okay, take care. Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml, wrapping up part one of today's edition of the Morning Magazine on AM 1320 and WFHR.com and River Cities Media. As always, it's brought to you by Comfort Air.